Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for having me here this afternoon. Let me also start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land, distinguished guests, and also members and guests of CEDA. It's my pleasure to be here today as part of the Women in Leadership program. To Kylie, Kelly, and Caroline, many of the things certainly resonate with me that they have already said today. My bio's in the handout, but I was told recently at a Women's Day luncheon that it was very boring. So I'm going to try and bring a bit of myself out, because the person that was facilitating that said, you know, this doesn't give away anything about you. So you will have guessed by my accent that I'm a New Zealander, proud and loud, very pleased that we're in the Cricket World Cup with Australia. But I'm also extremely fortunate to have lived in this wonderful country for 14 years. So I also see myself as an adopted Australian. I am a country girl who has two sisters, a mum and a dad, and I have a wonderful husband who 20 years of marriage recently, so we've got something right at the moment. And also a little daughter, Sophie, who is 5 years old and just entered the education system. So that is certainly a joy to watch. So let me also just preface what I'm going to speak about today by saying I've chosen not to take a highly female slant on it, because what I'm finding as I speak at a number of events that are targeted at women, many of the things that I say also are equally important to the male population, and in actual fact resonate just as much. But some of them clearly are specific from a gender perspective. And to that end, I'd also like to acknowledge how many males there are in this room, because I think when you think about the progress that still needs to be made, the influence of the vast majority of people still sitting around the table, unfortunately, means that the role that they play as advocates and the role that they play in driving change is critically important. So thank you for being here. Let me start by saying I do not stand before you as a world authority on courage or change. But what I do have is both personal experiences and insights that I've gained from others that have given me the opportunity to learn some things along the way and have guided me in both my personal and professional life. Let me start with courage. At a personal level for me, and certainly as Caroline spoke, this resonated, and you'll identify with what she said. For me, from a courage perspective, it's been essential for me to learn to have conviction, to develop an inherent self-confidence that's then allowed me to seize the opportunities as they're presented, be open to the possibilities, even when they're not inherently obvious, and they're often not obvious. They might be to my male colleagues, but they're certainly not to me. And to take risks and be prepared to make myself very vulnerable. And in order to do this, I've found it helpful to do a couple of things. The first and most important one is to find my voice and to have the courage to speak up. Like me, I'm sure you'll find that you'll create far more opportunity for yourself by asking for what you want and putting forward your own opinions. And that starts with being grounded in what is important for you. And many young females and many people across the board that I mentor today are not really clear on that. And that's fine, because life's a journey, we all know that. But it does become very important as you put yourself out there and look for the opportunities that exist. Don't assume that you're working with mind readers who know what you want or what is best for you. The other thing, and this is a particularly female trait in my opinion, is remove the monkey on your shoulder. Remove that little thing there saying, you can't do this, no, you're not up to this, which is kind of where Caroline was coming from. You've got to have that courage. Be under no illusion that we all have self-doubt. It doesn't matter what role you have, it doesn't matter what role you play, it doesn't matter whether you're female, male, it's human. It's how you deal with it that is how you'll be judged. The other important thing from my perspective is you need to build a network. Ask yourself, who are your mentors? What is your brand? Who are the key stakeholders or influencers that will make the decisions and influence the outcome that you're after? Who is actually advocating for you? leverage the guidance of those around you, look for their insights, advice, and brutally honest feedback from those you trust, because that becomes critically important. You can draw on role models, you can draw on personal friends, mentors, coaches along the way. And in those moments of doubt, when you're lacking in courage, draw on the courage of those around you, those people that form a really critical part of your support network, whether it be on a personal or professional basis. At an organisational level, I personally strive to create an environment and an inherent culture that is based on trust, that promotes two-way dialogue, an open-door policy. In actual fact, my PA says this is a major downfall because many people circumvent her to come to me to get time because they know that I'll say yes and she'll say no, because she's trying to protect me. I look to create a workplace where the team have the confidence to have opinions and an ability to express themselves openly. An environment where they feel empowered to take risks and to know that they'll be supported to try new things, to make mistakes and apply their learnings. And I have to say that the company I joined 8 years ago inherently has that at the core of their culture. We pride ourselves on agility and innovation, but frankly, those are easy words to say, it is more difficult to put in practice. Agility happens best without hierarchy. So I am constantly challenging myself and my team to lower the decision threshold and reduce bureaucracy. And I think you'll all agree that sometimes that can be extremely difficult. But in my view, you can take very small, practical steps to make an impact. I by no way confess to having completely got all of this right, because it's an ongoing journey. But one practical example of where I've tried to promote that is in a Start With Yes initiative that I recently kicked off. It's just a very simple example in a workplace. As a leader, I pride myself on staying very engaged at all levels of the organisation. I believe it is essential to stay in touch with the reality of the day in the life of your employees. You've got to understand their pain, because frankly, that is often what is inhibiting driving the best results. So following a recent all-hands, kicking off our new financial year and the priorities ahead, one of my sales team members dropped by my cubicle to give me feedback on the reality for him. He said that he was unable to deliver an optimal outcome for our business. He described a situation where he was spending 50% of his time internally convincing the support functions of why they should support his requests. And I'm, constantly asking my salespeople why they're not out in front of their customers. So we initiated a working group of sales professionals to work with the support functions to identify the roadblocks and come up with plans to eliminate them. It's very simple, but it really drives to this culture of allowing people to have an opinion, to come forward, to voice that opinion, to be heard, and then to be part of the journey in solving it. Let me now talk to change. I'm sure you'll all agree that change is a constant in all of our lives. And in an industry that I work in, we are often at the forefront of enabling that change. It's always served me well to be highly adaptable and remain open to the possibilities, as I said earlier. For me, 3.5 years ago, I was asked to take an opportunity based out of Singapore to lead our services business and promoted to Vice President within our organisation. This was a significant promotion for me and an opportunity for us as a family to go and experience life beyond Australia and New Zealand. But less than 2 years later, a global restructure found me without a job, because that is the reality of corporate life. I'm going to talk to that and what I think is important as you adapt to change, because it clearly relates. But for me, I then went for a 4-month period without a job. I was the highest paid paper mover in the business. But for me, what that really drove in me was an inherent need to get out there and really expand my network, ensure that people actually knew who I was, what I was capable of, what I stood for. So really, it did feel like I took the caravan on the road and did the self-promotion tour, but it was critically important. And what I had decided in my own mind was that if I was to leave the company, I was not going to leave without having turned over every possible opportunity for me to actually stay. Because it was a company I wanted to stay with, I believed in, and I did see myself having a positive future and an ability to contribute to that future. So finally, and quite fortuitously, my predecessor chose to retire, and I quite, I don't call it luck, I think it clearly the stars aligned somewhere, but I was able to come back and run the ANZ business, which is a dream job and just a wonderful opportunity and brings me closer to home. So, through adversity, there was opportunity. And to that end, at a professional level, when I think about change, I've observed the best leaders are most often the most open to change. They embrace it. After all, change can only occur with any of us and in any organisation when we open ourselves to what we do not know, to the possibilities that there are viewpoints other than our own which are also right. No single individual, as you all know, can possibly know everything. Thus, the best leaders draw on the strengths and experience of the team around them. They learn to ask questions, and then they take the time to actively listen. And this is probably one of the biggest things, is active listening versus empty listening. They avoid judging others against their experience alone and stay very open. Once again, as I've navigated my own career, I've found the following techniques helpful to me. I touched on earlier the importance of network, and once again, mentors play a critical role. It's really important that you identify people both within and external to your organisations who have experience that can help and guide you through change. I also say to people that, in my view, it's very hard to find that single individual that serves all purposes. It's okay to break up with your mentor if it's not working. And it's also okay to have multiple mentors. And I really encourage people to step back and think about what they want to take from the mentor relationship. But then it's important what they put into it to get the most from it. I also, however, believe outside of mentors, coaches, and role models, that it's extremely important along the way that you, in times of change, that you have sponsors. A sponsor, unlike a mentor, you don't walk up into the hall and ask them if they'll be your sponsor. A sponsor is somebody whose trust, whose backing you gain over time through your actions and through delivering on your commitments and results. These individuals, however, in times of change, will know your value. They will be prepared to back your potential. And that's certainly a lesson that I learnt firsthand in the experience that I described around my services position. And as I said, these relationships come from exposure and a track record of delivering. So they are, they are something that is built over time within an organisation or within a community or an area that you're working. The other thing I feel very, very passionate about as it relates to both change and courage is to remain authentic. Hold true to your values. Know what your values are. At times in corporate life, your values will be tested. And in my view, there is no area for compromise. You've got to know what you stand for, and you've got to be prepared to hold true to that. That does not mean everybody around you will have similar values, will stay true to them, but my view is you've got to stay true to your own. The other thing is, I am not in my job because I'm a female. This is a world of meritocracy, so you have to stay relevant. You have to stay abreast of the organisations, the industries that you work in. You have to stay on top of the trends in the industry. And in some of our industries and companies we work in, we know, as we said, that change is a constant. So that's something that's often quite hard to achieve. But you have to drive your own continuous learning. You've got to remain relevant. If you know what's going on in your industry, it will be far easier to come up with ideas that will help your organisation better serve your customers and remain ahead of the competition, both internal and external. You really do cannot assume that you will automatically be relevant. The other thing, and reflecting again on what Caroline said, put your hand up for the big jobs. Put your hand up for a job that you're not necessarily 100% comfortable going for. Too many times I have conversations, particularly with women, where they will tell me all the reasons why they shouldn't get a job, and while the males are convincing me on all the reasons they should get the job, and the female has probably 85% of the skills and the male has 50. No disrespect to the males in the room. But it is a constant thing that I see, and undervaluing, particularly by females, of their capabilities. So as I say, you have to focus on the skills you have. You know, let's face it, if you're going out there and selling your company or selling a product, you're not going to tell everybody the flaws about it, are you? You're going to tell them all the things that are wonderful. So it's quite interesting to see how that plays out on a personal level. Diversity of experience is key to a successful career. So my advice, and I think this is something we have the ability to do, particularly from where I come from in New Zealand, but also in Australia, I think we have the ability to gain experience across many fields and directions. So that often serves you very well as you progress through an organisation. Don't think about what you need to do to get the next job title, because I do find people get quite fixated on the job, and sometimes, you know, it's about when the music stops, which chair's available, or it's about, you know, some of those roles don't come available that often. So I encourage people to allow them to make the most of change and opportunity as it emerges, to step back and think about what is the skill set that I need to be developing, not to be fixated on the job or the title in the organisation that they're after. So think about all along what will broaden your ability over time. And as I said, always have the courage to put yourself forward. The other thing is build your brand and your reputation. I talked about this relative to sponsorship, and clearly it forms a key part of it. And it also ties back to what do you stand for, what are your values. But do take time to determine what is the brand that you want to be known for, and what is your reputation. And it will take time, and it will likely evolve with experience. But I think it can be a very, very powerful thing. Along the way, as you do that, be highly accountable and open to feedback. And it's often very confronting. It's often not what you want to hear. And the people that are giving it to you are probably doing you the world's best favour in being so direct, but at the time you probably don't feel like that. And this is where also I see things like 360-degree feedbacks and things like that play a really critical role in making you consciously aware. So it sort of all ties in around, you know, take that opportunity to learn and begin, you know, look at the groundwork that you need to do. And then last but not least, you know, be willing to take risk. Your career journey, as I described, is not always predictable. So take the opportunity to learn something new, be comfortable in the uncomfortable, explore the opportunities that exist. And as I said, I can't reinforce enough the importance, in my view, of strong advocates for you. And I know in my own career, those individuals have played a really critical role for me in both prodding me to encourage me to take opportunities, and Caroline reflected on this as well. Reflected on this as well. How somebody had said to her, you know, here's a great job for you, and yet you're sitting there going, well, no, I don't think so. I don't think I should do that. And often it's that person behind you, prodding you, giving you the confidence. So in closing, I would ask you to think with clarity as it relates to courage and change. Think with clarity, listen for opportunity, speak with intent, and act with purpose. Thank you very much.